Welcome to the Turbulence lesson. In this lesson, we will discuss turbulence intensity levels, types of severe turbulence, and turbulence management procedures. Turbulence is caused by the movement of disturbed air, either of mechanical or thermal origin, and may occur within or clear of clouds. The intensity of turbulence is irregular and variable and cannot be detected by ATC radar. Although some incidents might be insignificant and barely noticeable to the pilots and crew, other encounters can be severe enough to cause temporary loss of control and structural damage to the airplane. There are 4 types of turbulence intensity: light, moderate, severe, and extreme. Light turbulence momentarily causes slight erratic changes in aircraft attitude and altitude. During incidents of light turbulence, unsecured objects in the cockpit and cabin may be displaced slightly. The flight crew and passengers may also feel a slight strain against seatbelts and shoulder harnesses. Moderate turbulence is similar to light turbulence, but is of greater intensity. Noticeable changes in altitude or attitude occur, and are usually accompanied by variations in the aircraft's indicated airspeed. During moderate turbulence, crew and passengers feel a definite strain against seatbelts and shoulder straps, unsecured objects are dislodged, and walking is difficult. Severe turbulence causes large, abrupt changes in altitude or attitude, large variations in indicated airspeed, and can cause momentary loss of aircraft control. When experiencing severe turbulence, aircraft occupants are forced violently against seatbelts and shoulder straps, unsecured objects are tossed about the aircraft, and walking is impossible. Extreme turbulence is the most dangerous of the 4 levels. At this level of intensity, the movement of the aircraft is violent and practically impossible to control, and can result in structural damage. Of the 4 levels of turbulence, severe turbulence will be the major focus of this lesson. The 3 major causes of severe turbulence are clear air turbulence, convective activity or thunderstorms, and wake turbulence. Clear air turbulence, or CAT, is defined as turbulence that is not associated with clouds. Clear air turbulence usually occurs at altitudes above 23,000 feet, and at times can be severe. 2 common causes of clear air turbulence are the jet stream and mountain ranges. Clear air turbulence near the jet stream is caused by a rapid change in wind velocity gradient, where slow-moving air is adjacent to rapidly moving air. Mountain wave clear air turbulence is the result of air being forced to rise up the windward side of a mountain and then sinking down the leeward side. This mixing of air develops into turbulent airflow downstream of the mountain, creating breaking waves, rotors, and eddies. To reduce the likelihood of encountering CAT, avoid the places where it is most likely to occur. Since it can't be forecast or visibly observed, pilot reports are the best way to find current information regarding clear air turbulence. For this reason, pilots are urged to report encounters with this type of turbulence to ATC or a flight service station as soon as practical. When filing a PIREP with a flight service station, it is important to provide concise information in the following order: aircraft location, time of occurrence in Zulu time, turbulence intensity, whether the turbulence occurred in or near clouds, aircraft altitude or flight level, and type of aircraft.
Over Omaha VOR, 1232 Zulu, severe turbulence in clouds at flight level 310. Aircraft is the citation Bravo.
If clear air turbulence cannot be avoided, it is important to maintain a constant attitude in order to let the aircraft ride the waves. Try to keep a constant pitch attitude to maintain a constant airspeed. Also, maintain a constant turbulence penetration power setting for the recommended turbulence penetration speed. Do not try and maneuver, as this increases load stress on the aircraft. Potentially hazardous severe turbulence can also be found in and around thunderstorms. The visual appearance of a thunderstorm can't be used to determine the severity of turbulence. Keep in mind, a visible thunderstorm is only a portion of a turbulent system, where updrafts and downdrafts often extend far beyond the visible storm cloud. Shear turbulence may be encountered in an area up to 20 miles laterally and several thousand feet above a severe storm. Airborne radar can be used indirectly to assist in the detection of turbulence. Radar waves reflect areas of moderate to heavy precipitation, which is usually where the most turbulent areas of a storm are located. As a general rule, the frequency and severity of turbulence increases with radar reflectivity. Severe turbulence can also be caused by other aircraft and can pose a significant hazard when encountered in flight. All aircraft generate a disturbance in the air behind them, known as wake turbulence. This is caused by a pair of counter-rotating vortices trailing from the wingtips and outboard flaps if in use. These wingtip vortices form whenever an aircraft is producing lift and can therefore occur anytime during flight. The strength and intensity of the vortices are determined by the weight, speed, and configuration of the aircraft. A heavy, slow, and clean configuration aircraft produces the highest intensity of turbulence. Flying through the wake turbulence of a larger aircraft can induce a roll that may exceed the roll control capability of your aircraft. Wake turbulence is especially hazardous in the region behind an aircraft during the takeoff or landing phases of flight, when slower airspeeds and a high angle of attack maximize the formation of strong vortices. When departing behind a larger aircraft, pilots should note the aircraft's rotation point and rotate prior to that point, continue to climb above the larger aircraft's climb path until turning clear of the wake, and avoid subsequent headings which will cross below and behind larger aircraft. When landing behind a larger aircraft, pilots should stay at or above the larger aircraft's final approach flight path, and note the touchdown point and land beyond it. Although speeds are higher during cruise, due to the reduced air density at high altitudes, aircraft can still produce wakes of severe intensity during the cruise phase of flight. In addition, the recent advancements in navigation precision and the rising air traffic volume have increased the frequency of wake turbulence encounters in the en route environment. For an in-depth discussion of this hazard, refer to the en route wake turbulence encounters lesson. Turbulence is the leading cause of injury in non-fatal accidents, with cabin crew members being injured at a disproportionately higher rate compared to passengers. Encounters with severe turbulence often attract media attention, and can result in a negative impact on public views of airline safety. For the safety of the aircraft, passengers, and crew, it is important that the captain and first officer work with their cabin crews to prepare for turbulence encounters and properly manage the associated risks. Every pre-flight briefing should include possible turbulence encounters on each sector of the flight. The flight crew must brief the cabin crew on the intensity and duration of expected turbulence and ensure a common understanding of phraseology and company SOPs. When messages are communicated about expected or unexpected turbulence, the cabin crew should read back the instructions to prevent errors that could compromise safety. To prevent injuries as a result of turbulence during takeoff and climb, the cabin crew must ensure all passengers, baggage, overhead lockers, and galley equipment is secure prior to takeoff. Whenever turbulence is experienced in flight, especially when at moderate levels or higher, the crew should take appropriate steps for self-preservation first and foremost. Often, what the cabin crew experience at the rear of the aircraft can be very different from what is being experienced at the front of the aircraft. When turbulence is encountered en route, the fasten seatbelt sign should be switched on, and passengers should be informed via the PA. Cabin crew should stow all service items, conduct compliance checks, and secure themselves in their seats. After an encounter with moderate or higher turbulence, the pilot in command should advise the cabin crew when it is safe to resume duties, and direct them to check for passenger and crew injuries, administer first aid if necessary, and check the cabin for any damage. If turbulence is anticipated on descent, the flight crew must be aware that securing the cabin may take 10 to 15 minutes, and should therefore inform the cabin crew well in advance. Once the aircraft has begun its descent for approach and landing, the fasten seatbelts lights should be turned on. Cabin crew should confirm that all passengers, baggage, overhead lockers, and galley equipment is secured, and all crew are at their assigned stations with seatbelts and harnesses fastened. This concludes the turbulence lesson.
That is correct. That is incorrect. That is incorrect. That is correct. That is incorrect.